Best bet show, Field of 68, BetRivers, three-man weave, perfect intro. I'm Kai McEwen. Joining me is Jim Root and Matt Cox. Post Super Bowl show, our first one of the season. That means it's college basketball, baby. All eyes are on the best sport in the entire world. Hey, congrats to the Chiefs. It was actually a really good game. I watched the Super Bowl. Yes, even me, Jim, the non-football guy here, liked it, had fun, high scoring, drama, came down to the wire. Fantastic. Now we move on. We talk about college basketball. Season starts now, Jim. Takeaways from this weekend, if you got them.
Ticket punchers, Kai. That's what I'm calling our Tigers and the Purple Cats of Northwestern. Going to be tough to keep them out with that win over Purdue at home yesterday. Really, really solid resume. So potentially the second bid in the history of that school. Big for journalists everywhere. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot from Darren Rovell, etc., about Northwestern. Matthew, any takeaways for you?
You know, Kai, I kind of blame you for the Zach Edey segment on our podcast. I feel like you jinxed him and the Boilers as they now lost 2 in a row. And while I believe he's still the player of the year, I continue to look closer at alternative long shot options there in that market.
Come on.
So I like you to respect the gambling gods as you so confidently claim him as the runaway guarantee champion. But yeah, welcome NFL fans. This sport's it's a lot harder to beat than I think you may be perceiving. So especially for me, I am ice cold, which is why you should now start following me. So just if you're just now new to the show, I've been in kind of a rut. So usually what you want to do is start tailing the guy who's been in a bad streak, the do theory, and you want to fade the guys who have been hot. That's kind of, one of the
do theory,
one of the pillars that we advise as trailing us as quasi touts.
Kai, it's like watching a game, and I discussed this with Pete, one of the guys in the chat recently. And you complain about a player, and he immediately makes an awesome play. Even this weekend, we were like, man, Golston from Mizzou, why is he our late clock option? And then he hits a game winner at the buzzer. So you just kind of complain it into existence. Maybe that's what Lake Show's doing with Matt's best bets.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's get on to the show rundown. Here we go. Hey, a couple of really good games in this very small slate, full of mid-majors and low majors. But we have West Virginia at Baylor leading us off. And Matthew, it's a Big 12 battle. We saw West Virginia lay a stinker on the road against Texas. They got blown out. Their fate is still in the balance right now, just 4-8 in conference play. I would say their tournament outlook is it's okay, but it's definitely dicey. And a win here at Baylor would go a long way. Just 2 true road wins or quality true road wins all season long. Matthew, who do you have in this one? Baylor is -6.5 at home.
I like Baylor first half. The 6.5 feels a little bit too big for me to lay with much confidence. But yeah, I mean, Baylor, took care of business on the road. I know TCU is shorthanded, but relative to the odds makers' expectations, they covered that game. They've now won I think 10 of their last 11. The only loss being that barn burner at Texas. West Virginia, though, I think continues to surprise us. Right? I think we were sort of in this West Virginia team's overrated by the numbers because of a few blowout efforts. But you just break down what they've done on the road in conference play. They're one of the better road ATS teams of power within the power conference realm, Jim. So that kind of huggy, gritty mentality with the size they have up front. I know their guards are erratic, but it seems to have traveled well in Big 12 play. And I'm sure you'll talk about the cha-cha X factor here for the Bears. I like the Bears first half, but no official play for me.
Yeah, how about Baylor, man? They're like arguably a 2 seed right now after they were 10-5 a month ago. They've won 9 of their last 10. Really, really playing well. Kai, what they've done in league play is slam the brakes offensively. They are playing a lot slower. They're just trying to out-execute teams or just outperform teams in the half court. I think they know they've got better scorers with Flagler, Cryer, even Bridges, and Keontae George has been fantastic. And they think that their half-court defense is good enough to hold up and not be totally horrendous enough to offset their offense, which has been fantastic. JTT does help. He's definitely given them a little bit of an emotional boost. But Kai, with some of the switching stuff, he has gotten attacked. Over the weekend, TCU is really picking on him, trying to get him in space. He just doesn't quite have the burst yet, so we're still waiting to see that come along. I kind of like Matt's angle here on Baylor first half. I also like the under, which is a real cringe thing to do against West Virginia because it's just a foul fest whenever they play. But the first time these two played, there were 60 points at halftime, and then there were 25 in the final 2 minutes of the game because of fouling and stuff. So that's the risk. I still think the pace is slow enough that the under is worth a look.
Yeah, Baylor won game one on the road in West Virginia. Obviously very impressive. The Mountaineers did lead by 5 in the second half, though. Keontae George was huge in that game, 32 points. Apparently, West Virginia just doesn't have that answer. And I mentioned the road wins. West Virginia has just not been that good on the road. We know they stayed in the state of Texas since that Texas game. Maybe that helps out their travel a little bit more, helps them, it helps their mindset a bit. But I just can't go against Baylor right now. They're playing their best ball at the moment. We talked about JTT being back in the fold. I think it's a matchup in which they perform well. They don't foul, they rebound well, and their interior defense gets a lot better with JTT back. It's a similar spread to Texas, in which case I kind of liked West Virginia against Texas or taking 7 there. Obviously didn't work out. In this one, I'm staying away. 6.5 is probably the right line. And again, Baylor's hot right now. Next game. To the ACC we go. And boy, this one has been steamed, man. North Carolina is now laying 5.5 at home against Miami. The Lions moved 1.5, 2 points since the opener. Am I surprised, Jim? I think I am a bit. They're off a great win, UNC, against Clemson. But are they really 2 points-ish better on a neutral than Miami right now? I don't know.
Yeah, that it feels high to me. And like I think the easy narrative is, UNC's way better at home. Okay, true, but they're 6-6 against the spread at home. They're 2-9 and 2 pushes against the spread anywhere else. So yes, they are better at home, but it's not like they're a home run, easy bet at home like Auburn last year or something like that. This just feels high to me. Miami's guards gave UNC absolute hell last year, blew them out by 28. Granted, that was in Coral Gables, but a complete smackdown. Matt, I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means here, but 5.5 is just too many for a team with better guards. Baycott probably has his way. Omier foul trouble is a risk, but I just like Miami more than UNC right now. So 5.5, sure, I'm interested.
Jim, good set. I'll spike this for my best bet. Hopefully a winner, trying to get off the losing tracks here. I had 2 today, a little teaser. Yeah, I like the Canes. I know UNC played a lot better last game. I was very confident that Clemson would continue to pick on this depreciating UNC defense, but they played with a lot more, with what it reads like energy and passion and all that stuff that you hear about. So maybe UNC's actually, maybe their defense is tightening up the screws. I still don't like the matchup, right? Even though you're playing harder, I don't think that quells the fact that their primary 2 guards are not great on-ball defenders, and Miami toasted them in ball screen last year. They'll do the exact same this year. Is it a tough spot for Miami? Yeah, one day turnaround after going from Coral Gables up to Chapel Hill. But the Canes are 7-2 on the road ATS this year, I believe, by my tally. And I think the fact that they actually kind of played a oddly close game against Louisville, I think actually is a good thing here. I think it kind of like reinvigorates them. Like, okay, that was a kind of a dicey effort here. Let's kind of get locked in for UNC. Also, maybe proves that they're looking ahead of this game. So, like the Canes, agree. I see the money for UNC. Understand it, right? Good spot, buy low. Maybe they're going to see this trajectory going up. I don't see that though. So I'm fading it. I'm taking the Canes at the better price, 5.5.
Yeah, I really don't understand the money. Unless someone's hurt. I mean, objectively, Miami's been the better team this season and recently. I think Omier holds his own against Baycott. The guard play is better for the Canes. And have you guys seen the coaches, by the way, on the sidelines here? Jim Larinaga is a much better coach than Hubert Davis. It's not even close. Fading UNC has been profitable overall this year, 8-15 against the spread, 2-4 the last 6. I lean the Canes here as well. I support Matthew's best bet at plus 5.5.
There's no way Caleb Love plays as well as he did 2 games in a row, right? He was a monster.
He was excellent against Clemson.
Yeah. It looked like he and RJ Davis had to sit down and sorted out their little love triangle problems.
You got the Caleb Love hitting everything game, unfortunately, for Clemson backers.
Yep.
Like me. All right, next game, Texas at Texas Tech. The Longhorns are laying 4 on the road, Matt, against their rival. Hey, credit to Texas Tech. Beating K-State is impressive, even at home. And we know this Texas Tech team is still pretty formidable at home. Do you like them here against Texas getting 4?
No, I don't. Not going to lay it with Texas. I think you have to respect the home court here, right? Texas is a different animal. I think there's some real juice in that building still. You remember the massive game last year in Lubbock that was like the all-time hypest of home regular season spots. Tech will be up for this one. I know Chris Beard won't be on the sideline, so there may not be that same vile hatred in the building. But Tech's just better at home, in my opinion. Just anecdotally, I think that's where they play their best. And for a team that's been up and down, there could be some value here, Jim. Matchup-wise, I still like Texas's guards leaps and bounds better than Tech's. And while Tech's front line should have an advantage here, with IMAX issue, and then with Bacho kind of being not all the way at his best, consistently, we'd say.
He missed last game.
Yeah, he's out last game. What's the status for this game? I believe he's supposed to.
Oh, no.
It's still TBD. Yeah, they've been kind of close to the best with those guys all year, and Isaacs as well. I don't know. I think a lot sets up here for Texas, but I think it's sort of I'll stay away here in a weird spot.
I have a note for Texas Tech. I don't know how well they've scouted this game, but Sir'Jabari Rice likes to use what's called a pump fake. And no one has ever seen it before. It's like kind of that movie, The Invention of Lying,
yes,
where like Ricky Gervais just gets to say lies and people are like, what? I didn't even know that was an option. It's like, you can fake a jump shot? Oh God, I can't even believe it. So he gets to the line at will because he always beats the first guy and then gets to the rim. I hope that Texas Tech has figured that out. Scouted a little bit. They're familiar with Texas as an opponent. Matt, you mentioned no Beard, but there's still a little Jalen Tyson transfer angle. I know you love that as the kind of the revenge guy playing the old school, a little bit motivated for that. I don't really have a strong take on this side either way, Kai. I think the line's actually fairly solid. I thought there was a chance it'd be a little closer to Texas Tech where everyone would jump all over Texas, but not willing to do that here. And Texas has been involved in some shootouts lately, so I'm not going to touch the total either.
Yeah, shout out to Sir'Jabari Rice, by the way, for getting out of New Mexico State. Good call.
Yeah.
Way to get out of there.
He'd be not playing basketball right
yes.
now.
Bacho, Isaacs, don't know their status. I think they kind of matter, especially against Texas here. But AMAC coming back is big. And also, Mark Adams changed Texas Tech's rotation. They went small against Kansas State, and it worked. And can you do that against Texas to the same effect? Maybe not. But it is a huge rivalry game. They clearly have some momentum coming into this game. They lost by just 2 at Texas in their first matchup. They can hang with them. Isaacs had 23 in that game, maybe part of it. I actually lean towards Tech at home. Again, I think there's something brewing with their retooled rotation, the return of AMAC, the home court, slightly in their way at +4.
I actually do lean the over. Kai, the retooled rotation, I think I forgot to mention, like they've been playing a little smaller without one of Bacho or AMAC. 79 possessions against K-State.
Yes.
Did not get even close to going over, which frustrated me to no end. But if you give me that kind of pace up and down and Texas is willing to play that way, then you're going to make money in the long run betting overs there.
And 72 possessions in the first matchup between these two teams. So hitting 75 would not be a surprise in this game. All right, next one here, Drexel.
Real quick,
yes,
Kai,
Matthew.
I want to echo J-Man's take there at the buzzer. I refuse to believe in Texas Tech. I think that's a pretty good, just simple parallel to attack this game. I wouldn't bet Texas Tech.
Fair enough. They looked just fine against Kansas State last game. They could be coming back a little bit. Drexel at Hofstra, our next one in the Colonial. Hofstra laying 9.5. Man, Matt, Drexel's a weird team. They just beat Towson in overtime without 3 of their main players, including Justin Moore. I don't understand that one. Yes, I am mad about that game. And Hofstra's rolling. 7 straight wins, 7 straight covers. What do you make of this game in a pretty big spread here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have Amari Williams up front for Drexel. I think he's a great neutralizer on both ends, and that's kind of been a key matchup problem that Drexel has posed for teams. You have him up front. You have a dynamic creator and more, and then have shooters around. But no, I don't understand that result at all. I can't possibly fathom how you could beat Towson without those guys, although Towson's not exactly a very deep team either. Hofstra, not exactly a deep team themselves, but they have played without depth all season. And I don't think they're like, they're not prone to, letdowns in bad spots because of that lack of depth. And you kind of have to apply that today when you're, again, on a quick turnaround, played Saturday, now you're playing Monday. Estrada's been back for 2 games, and they've looked pretty damn dominant, right? So, like, Hofstra is a team that played really well without Estrada, shockingly. And then I think with him, he just obviously lifts their ceiling to a new level. I would not fade Hofstra here. Do I like the value, though? The price at Hofstra? Not really. It feels a little bit too high to me.
Apologies for the current appearance of our stream. Jim did lose internet.
Oh, did we lose, Jim? Okay.
Yes.
It's a big loss for us.
Yes, I think the boxes are a little screwed up, but we're still here. We're talking. Matt and I are still on here. All right, here we are. Just listen to the sound of our soothing voices. Yeah. Matt and I both have very soothing voices, baritone.
Are you a Dragon or a Pride?
I'm leaning Pride here, Matt. Even with the big spread, the Dragons are worse on the road. They've been very strong at home this season. And also, without those guys in the lineup, even if a couple of them are still missing, I don't think they really stand a chance against Hofstra. They need to control the tempo, Drexel really wants to slow it down. Speedy, like his name suggests, wants to run for Hofstra. Aaron Estrada should score at will. Hofstra has too many weapons, despite Drexel's stellar defense. I also think Hofstra has a lot of answers for Amari Williams inside. So I lean towards Hofstra as well, even at 9.5. All right, Matthew, can you help me out on Chatsar? Do you have his capabilities? Let's do this.
From the hip. So I was told that was actually in all 3 screens. I was trying to do kind of like a Rihanna, a little reenactment last night there.
I think we're back a little bit with just us in the frames at least. That's good. They can see us now.
That's good. Progress indeed. All right, let's go through questions. You don't have a lot here to get to.
No, just a couple.
Grambling is on the outline, I believe. How many SWAC games are on the outline?
Grambling is not on the outline.
Grambling. Let's talk Grambling, Kai. The Fighting Cartier Gordons down there, one of the 5 Tigers in the SWAC. They are hosting Prairie View. Opened at 6.5, down to 5. Some money on the Panthers, which I agree with. Felt like a big number for even though Prairie View's not been as dominant as we know in years past, they are one of the top dogs in that league. Any take here, Kai?
No, not really. I lean towards Grambling, I suppose, Matthew. They've just been a lot better team. We're back in the 3 boxes. Jim's on the cell phone. He's with us now. What a show so far. I lean Grambling. I'm not going to belabor this take. I don't have much on it.
Continuing here, I'm looking Stony Brook, Delaware. That'll be a best bet. We'll holster that one.
Wow, Matt Sharp today, all over the holster.
I'm good. Look at you. I'm all over, baby. Monmouth, NCA&T. Did that make the outline? No chance. I made. All right, good. No offense for those 2 teams. Hey, our Monmouth Hawks fight on King Rice and company. They are kind of a sneaky ATS darling recently. However, when they lose, they can lose big, and so I think you kind of have to pick the right spots to back them. Jim, NCA&T is the more talented team, but the team I don't really trust. 1 point, though. Just you're asking the Aggies to win at Monmouth. It's not a big ask.
Yeah, I'm flying kind of blind here. I don't have any data because of the lack of actual Wi-Fi.
Don't need data.
But Monmouth is playing so much better lately. They actually are trending up. My ratings maybe are a little stale on them. So this line said bet NCA&T, but I wouldn't do that. I sort of lean towards Monmouth just based on current form. And Matt's a classic gut against the number thing, and usually gut rides that out.
Yeah, I've found my gut to be a lot better than my numbers this year. Any other last second ones? I'm scrolling here. Mobsters, please repeat, resend if you already sent them earlier. That's all I see. Legitimately, fellas. I don't think there's any. What other games have we missed? Hampton Elon? You want to talk Hampton Elon? That didn't make the chat, did it?
No, it did not, Matthew. Do you look at the outline ever?
6.5. I mean, I do occasionally, but I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. Elon laying 6.5, basically a touchdown to Hampton. Yeah, I mean, Hampton's been the bane of my existence the last 2 seasons. Team should be way better. I feel like it has way more talent than they play. Kai, thoughts? I kind of lean Elon here, actually, as wild as that is.
Kind of lean Elon, but it's a lot to lay with this team. Don't really trust them.
They won 4 or 5, gotten healthier too. So, and Elon basically rope-a-dope themselves into a buy low by dropping to 350th in KenPom. So you could argue there's still some value there. Both teams are bad though, Jim. Any additional thoughts?
No, but their urgent announcement is that I'm in a group chat in my building for playing pickup basketball, and there's a buzz about the lack of internet throughout the building right now. People are angry. The pitchforks are coming out. I think management's going to have a tough afternoon after this one.
We'll stay safe there, folks. Hi, that's all I have. I'm sorry if there's one more game. Morgan State, South Carolina State. That can't be on the outline, correct? Let's talk that one. 154.5. A question about the total. The side is basically sitting at a pick. My quick thoughts: I like Morgan State on the side, and I like the over, Mr. McKeon.
I can't like Morgan State, Matthew. They're too hurt. They've had 2 or 3 guys out of the lineup every single game. So I've stayed away.
They got a key by back last game. Jim, I know you're
but another guy was out.
Rosters here. Okay, yeah, they're kind of the whack-a-mole roster situation right now. Will Thomas came back, whatever. Okay, yeah, tough.
My numbers always say bet unders on South Carolina State games because their defensive possession length is so fast. That's what dictates all their high totals. They don't play any defense and they press and just kind of like let you get layups. I would probably lean towards the over, but I think the Morgan injuries also maybe detract from that too.
Yeah, the Malik Miller injury, I think, is what ruined Morgan's season. Like, you can kind of draw a line from when they were good to how they're playing without him. All right, back to the outline. Let's hit some swaction amongst other conferences.
Well, first, let's hit some Patriot League. Yeah, we had a question about this game, and we're going to answer it right now. American at Bucknell. American is laying 2 on the road. American's weird, Jim. They're talented. They're arguably the best team they've had in a long time, but they've faltered in league play. They lost 4 straight games after winning their first 4. Then they beat Army, Navy, and Colgate in the span of 4 games, and then they lost their last 2. Strange team. Can't figure them out. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, super erratic, which is surprising to me. They're like a Princeton offense. You think that's more consistent, but maybe in league play it's tougher because these teams are really prepared for it, and a couple other Patriot teams run Princeton. They're all a little bit lacking in dynamic athleticism the way like a Swack or a Miak would, and just play in transition. So there's a lot of half-court execution in this league. That's definitely Americans' bag with Rodgers as the big guy they play through. I just don't love this Bucknell team. It really leave me cold. I thought Nathan Davis had turned around a little bit after a complete basement out last year. They just tanked completely. But it hasn't corrected as well as I had hoped. They go on some real weird scoring droughts that I think don't really make sense for the roster they have. They actually have some decent scorers. So I would lean towards American, Kai. I just, both these teams are a little too erratic for me to trust.
Yeah, I love American, and then I look at their most, losing at home to Holy Cross, and that's kind of inexcusable, especially weird. Off the lost Boston before that. Like, I was really hoping to buy in on this team. Probably should have beat Colgate the first time. Probably should have swept Colgate. So you look at basically, I think American's a team that against the upper end of the conference, I think they're motivated. They can rise and play to the high level of the league, but against more of the middlers, they can step down and maybe sleepwalk through games. Just echoing your point, I don't trust either team. This conference is probably my least favorite to bet. Just the volatility and my lack of read on any team in any spot. In general, just bet the road team. The home court's basically non-existent. That's kind of my angle here.
Well, Matt, that's a good take. It's actually the lowest win percentage in the country in the Patriot. Just 48.6% of the time, home teams have won outright. Road teams win more outright in this league than home teams. That's crazy.
We'd rather play at your place than ours. That's what that means. Yeah.
So Bucknell won game 1 at American. It came down to hot shooting. Bucknell was 9 for 13 from 3. American was 4 for 15. American dominated the glass. They're clearly a better team. They're more talented. I think American gets revenge here and takes this one at -2. That's my lean. Next game, a huge game in the MEAC, fellas. It's Howard and Maryland Eastern Shore. If you're not familiar with the MEAC, Howard currently leads this league by 1 game. UMES and Norfolk are tied for second right now, Matthew. Howard's won 7 in a row, but they needed overtime to beat Delaware State in their last game on Saturday. UMES won the first matchup. Who do you like in this one, with Howard laying 7 points now at home?
I kind of like Howard. It feels big for, again, 2 teams that don't seem all that far apart in class, caliber of coaching talent, however you want to slice it. Kind of think it's a tough spot for Crafton and the boys of, what is it, Princess Anne, Maryland, wherever the way out there.
Princess Anne, I think is what
Princess Anne.
Yeah.
Man, Norfolk to come close but no cigar. I think they actually, they don't fold tonight, but I think it's tough to get back up to play Howard here just less than 48 hours later, Jim. I would lean the Bison despite the fact it's a pretty big number.
I am the opposite, Matthew. I kind of like going against Howard off the overtime win against Delaware State, where you had to play 5 extra minutes of basketball. Now it's 48 hours later. They got a big buzzer beater from Jelani Williams, or really late bucket to win that one. Howard is more talented, no question. That roster is actually pretty good, and it's trended up to maybe where we thought it could be in league play. Non-conference, they were not as strong. But Eastern Shore is really feisty, tough. They switch a ton defensively. They basically don't play a big guy most of the time, so that makes them really switchy 1 through 5. They got some physical guards. Phillip is like a beast. I think they hang around. I also would really love Eastern Shore to win for my Norfolk to win this league futures. So little bias in that, much to my chagrin. They're a game back right now, but I still do lean UMES off a loss against a team that just had an OT win. I think there's a little bit of buy low, sell high to that.
I think I last bet Howard against UMass in the first matchup, and I said they were a buy low, and I gave up after they lost, and sure enough, 7 straight wins, Kai. So there he is. There it is.
Yeah, 7 straight wins, but their last loss was Maryland Eastern Shore, and Maryland Eastern Shore, it's their defense. It's been so tough in league play. They are number 1 in turnover rate in the conference. They're number 1 in defensive rebounding, despite being one of the 5 shortest teams in the country. They just play hard. They play really hard. They're coached well. In this first game, it was kind of a domination, man. Maryland Eastern Shore led by 18 in game 1. Now Howard can shoot. They have the best field goal percentage in the conference from 3 and from 2. Elijah Hawkins is the real deal. He gives them a chance in every game, but I think 7 feels a bit high here. I actually lean towards Maryland Eastern Shore. Matt, if you're not familiar with geography, it's about a 2.5-hour bus ride over to Howard.
DC to the Bay, I guess. Whatever. Yeah.
Well, okay. Opposite. Yeah, exactly. I lean towards Maryland Eastern Shore. All right, Northeastern and Charleston is our next game. Going back to the Colonial here. Charleston has been its usual dominant self, we will say, Jim, since dropping 2 straight. They beat Delaware by 17, Wilmington by 32, and Hampton by 13. Northeastern's terrible, 6 straight losses. Who do you like in this game? Charleston's laying 16 at home.
I'm curious if Maddie will give me the stamp of approval on Charleston first half, because that's kind of what I'm thinking here.
Yes.
All right, good.
Yes.
Northeastern it's a lot of points for a Bill Cohen coach team. Like, he's probably going to muck the game up, slow it down. The roster is not great, but there's some big wing guys that can be somewhat issues and kind of muck up what Charleston wants to do. I just think the talent level is so overwhelming. Kelsey will at least get the tempo up, probably somewhat. It's easier to slow down a fast team than it is to speed up a slow one, but Charleston is like one of the best dictators of pace in the country. I lean towards Charleston first half. Like I said, I'm not really willing to lay 16, but I certainly won't take Northeastern, one of the teams I trust least in the country at this stage. Just maddening.
Yeah, lead the league in turnovers. They're last in the league in forcing turnovers. I mean, they lose the possession battle every time they go out there at Northeastern. So it basically, you're asking a team to outshoot your opponent on a nightly basis. And they're pretty good in the glass, right? That's where their strength is. They're long, but I think Charleston negates that completely, right? I think they get out in transition. They're running. I think they can force steals, get easy layups. Kind of reminds me of last season when Northeastern had this mid to late season swoon, and it feels like a white flag situation. I think Bill Cohen's a great coach. I think he's just in a situation now where the transfer thing has really just bypassed him in a sense, not to get into like a big macro tangent here, Kai, but just I think there's a similarity between last year's underachievement and I think this year, same type of thing. I know they've not been all the way healthy. They're healthier now, and it's still not going well. So I look to fade this Northeastern team.
Well, the problem's guard play, ball handling. That's been their issue since Tyson Walker left. They just don't have any point guards. And yeah, that's on Bill Cohen, probably, recruiting. I mean, he only has wings at his disposal.
Right, a lot of
and it's been like that for 2 or 3 years. Charleston crushed them in the first matchup, 26 points, or they won by 26. Straight dominance, 1.13 points per possession versus 0.79. Though Northeastern can stand up to Charleston on the glass better than most teams in the Colonial, they can't stop them any other way. I look for the Huskies to cough it up a lot, for Charleston to run their shooters off the line. That's key against the 3-point shooting Northeastern team. They have some bruisers, but again, Charleston, every bit as athletic, every bit more skilled. I think it's a fair line at 16. I'm staying away.
Yeah, Kai, the point guard thing's big. You mentioned they thought Cormier, the freshman, was going to be the next Tyson Walker, like come in and run the show, and he just hasn't been quite up to that standard.
Yes, correct. Next game, Jackson State at Bethune-Cookman. This is the last game on the schedule before we hit our Chat Mob Part 2. Matthew, Bethune, it's a pick. They've been playing better lately. Their talent's finally living up to expectations. Jackson State got right after a rough road stretch. They've now covered 2 in a row. Who do you like in this game?
Second best bet on a short slate for Matthew. I'm taking my Bethune, Cookman Wildcats here. Talked about this offline, that I thought they were 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. I think Kai, you said they're only 6-4. They've basically had a lot of close cover non-covers, but I think if you look at the results closely, they've been in every game that they didn't not cover, I guess, right? Texas Southern, they were basically tied with a minute to go. They lost by 7. The game was basically played to a pick 'em. Alcorn State, they led for a good chunk of that game. It was back and forth, punching. They beat Prairie View and they swept the Alabamas before that. I think they're playing a lot better. You can look at the late insertion of Dyson as another shooter to that mix. And with Dyson, Garrett, Harmon to a lesser extent, but especially Joe French, Jim, it's the best shooting team, I think, in this conference by a significant margin. I know they don't take great shots inside the arc. They're kind of a mid-range reliant team, but they can shoot it. And I think when they focus on shooting higher efficient threes as opposed to like lower efficient twos, they're a pretty good team. They're definitely talented. They play hard. I think they're just a buy low. So I'm looking to take them here, pick home against Jackson State, who's just okay.
Yeah, when there's 363 teams, sometimes a couple lineup changes, teams shuffling get lost. And you alerted me to the presence of Dyson and how kind of game-changing he's been for them. The fact that they now have another shooter to go out there And floor spacing when you have a top 70 recruit at point guard is really good. Harmon can get into gaps, create for others, create for himself. Like he's just on a different plane than almost every other guard in this league in terms of pure talent. And now you have, like you said, the shooting around to space that out. I kind of buy that. Jackson State, not the same tricky defensive team that they were last year with Mo Williams taking over. So I think Bethune-Cookman's probably the right side given the way they're trending.
Yeah, game one, we talked about shooting. Well, Bethune-Cookman, they lost by 4 points in that game. They were 5 for 25 from three. So that hopefully turns around in this game. Now, Jackson State was missing Jamarcus Jones, important player, but they had Trace Young. And Trace Young hasn't played in 3 games for them, and their results have been not great. They lost to Mississippi Valley State. They needed 2 overtimes to beat Pine Bluff, which they covered in double overtime. And then Florida A&M was up by 1 with 6 to play in that game before Jackson State kind of took over. So it hasn't been great efforts for them lately. If he's out again, I especially like Bethune-Cookman. Good luck finding information if he's out or not. You have to keep him off the glass. Jackson State, I think they can. And again, we talked about the 3-point shooting. They are a bit feast or famine, Bethune-Cookman, but man, if they're on, they can hang with anybody in the league. So I do lean towards Bethune-Cookman at home here. Chat Mob Part 2, do we have any other games we haven't talked about yet besides the best bet specials coming up very shortly?
Norfolk State, Delaware State.
Go Norfolk.
Norfolk.
Delaware State's way better at home. Delaware State's way better at home. I have some concerns about them going on the road against the best team in the league that's starting to roll a little bit. I think Norfolk's the best team in the league. Standings dictate otherwise, but yeah, and Delaware State's off that overtime. That again kind of tilts me away from them having just played extra time.
Hartford South Alabama, that's a best better. NC Central Coppin is not. I think it's our final game. Again, Coppin State, Morgan State, similar boat to me. I see the numbers. I think that's too many for that team who I think is really talented. But then you look at some of the injuries and some of the roster rotational stuff, and he explains it. NC Central under Mr. Moten's been awesome too, Kai. Still, 12 feels high. Feels high.
Yeah.
Coppin State sucks.
Coppin State's really bad.
Okay.
Yeah, my rating's stale on them.
Are they this bad?
They're
okay.
bad.
I guess they are. I mean, they certainly play like it, so it's hard for me to argue against that, I guess. All right. That's all I got. I have no profound takes on the MEAC. It's my second least well-versed conference behind the Patriot. Let's go to best bets.
All righty. Let's do mine first. It's Stony Brook. Stony Brook +8. There you go, chat mob. We're talking Stony Brook and Delaware. Yeah, +8 still at BetRivers. This team is so much better with Stevenson Moore back in the lineup. They showed that against North Carolina A&T. He had 14 points. They won by 10. Now, a different guy missed that game. Sarvin was out for that contest. I don't know his status. That does suck, but I still think they can cover here. Delaware is 0-6 against the spread their last 6 games. Injuries have been a problem for them as well. LJ Owens has been out a while. Jair Davis has missed the last few. TBD if either of those guys are back. Hopefully at least one is still out. And then Stony Brook shoots it. They have the highest 3-point attempt rate in the league. If they're hitting a normal percentage or even a little bit above, they can be a killer team and give Delaware a scare here. Stony Brook +8 is the best bet.
Love it, Kai. Yep. I think the
Matthew.
Delaware injuries are rather important.
Yes, agreed. Hopefully Jair is out again. Matthew, your best bet.
I'm sorry, I need to reiterate. Yes, the Canes, the U +5.5, and Bethune-Cookman. Kai, is that pick or +0.5? Am I getting the courtesy hook there? Not a game
Doesn't matter at all.
Anyway,
but it's a pick. But it's -0.5, but I don't know why BetRivers does that. It's pick.
That's very weird. Okay. Well, in the 1 in a million chance that this game gets called and they do call it a tie. Yeah, a 0, then I guess you'd be screwed. But hopefully it didn't happen. And the Wildcats stay hot from 3, Jimmo.
Attaboy. My best bet is the Hartford South Alabama under. Kai, correct me if it has moved. Last I saw it was 131.5.
Check the
updated number. Awesome. Thank you. It's just such a horrendous schedule spot for both teams, especially South Alabama. They just played on Saturday. Now, 48 hours later, they're playing a non-conference game against a team that is mega inferior. And they have Southern Miss, the league leader, on tap on Thursday. Short rotation for South Alabama makes a lot of sense to go slow, not try to tax those guys. And I think they'll throw out some zone looks against Hartford, too, that'll probably slow them down. And Hartford is one of the slowest offensive teams in the country by possession length. So I think you get a crawl here. It makes sense for both teams to play slow. Efficiency is maybe a slight concern because Hartford's defense is terrible, but they do have Kimbrough back, who's like their best, most athletic big man. I think that helps at least stymie the potential outburst here for South Alabama. So I like the under 131.5.
130 BetRivers.
130. Oh my God, this opened like 135. People are hammering this.
Been smoked.
All right, whatever. I'll still take it at 130, but I'm not thrilled about it.
Well, that does it for our show. And I'm thrilled all of you joined us today for our Monday Best Bets show presented by BetRivers. We will see you tomorrow, same time, 12 Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. See you then. Good luck with your bets.